thank you to Action for Trade for inviting me to come speak today. So I work at the Global Innovation Policy Center, and we're part of the U.S. Chamber, and this division was stood up about 10 years ago. The reason being that the business community saw a need for a particular unit to focus on protecting innovation and creativity in the United States and around the world. One of our signature products is the International IP Index, and that's this one pager that you have as you came in. And what we do there is we look at the IP systems around the world. And what I want to talk about is how the data that we have developed in this study relates to the NAFTA negotiations. I cannot understate the importance of the negotiations for NAFTA and coming up with a high standard IP chapter for the business communities in all three of our countries. It's critically important, and I want to thank the negotiators for all their efforts that they're working on over the next 2 days. So what I'd like to do is go through the index very briefly and also point out some of the key features of an IP chapter. It's our opportunity to harmonize the North American IP framework, critically important. Our index has shown that both Canada and Mexico have strengthened their IP system over the last few years, and we hope that the negotiations can really harness that positive momentum and come up with a 21st century agreement. So the index looks at 50 economies, and we have 40 indicators that are divided into these 8 categories. And we look at about 4,000 to 5,000 points of data to analyze the results. So there's quite a lot in here. What we can do through the index is compare countries on their overall IP system, but we can also compare them in these 8 categories. So you can get a lot more depth of knowledge doing it in that way as well. So this was the 2018 results. We just released it in February this year. And Mexico is one of our first rollout events, but we're going to 13 countries in just the first quarter of 2018 with more to come. And what it shows basically is Mexico is about in the middle. It's 24th out of 50. Canada comes in at 18th. And the United States is leading the pack, but actually almost tied with the United Kingdom. And as I mentioned, we've seen positive momentum in both Mexico and Canada. In Mexico this year, they increased in their score in 3 different of our indicators, and in Canada is actually the 3rd most improved score out of all the countries that we've done over the last 6 editions of the index. So again, we've seen positive momentum. You can also look at the countries that are involved in trading blocks around the world. And if you take a look at this, you can see that the 25-year-old NAFTA agreement is just not cutting it. We should be at the top of that group there, and we're way down at the bottom. So there's really an incredible opportunity to modernize. And modernization begins with IP, and so we really need to focus on that for this agreement. So the other thing we did when we started the index is we said, okay, if we do well on the index, what does that matter? So we wanted to look at other socioeconomic variables to determine what could you get if you actually had a good IP system. And we looked at 23 different variables, and I won't go through all of them with you, but I wanted to point out just a few of them. So for example, you have 45% better chance of getting your innovation funded if you're in the top ranks of the IP systems in the index. You have a 60% better environment for entrepreneurship. You have 75% more innovative and creative output, and then 25% better utilization of the technology that you do have access to. So you really have a lot of benefit that come from a strong intellectual property system. So we have very high hopes for the NAFTA agreement. We think it can bring economic benefits to all 3 of our countries, and we look forward to working with the negotiators as it moves forward. Thank you very much.